Hello everyone, welcome to the QuesterMage and Mage's Quest to talk about games. In today's video I want to talk about one of the new announcements from Arcade1UP, the brand new Arcade1UP Killer Instinct Pro Line / XL cabinet. We have a few videos talking about arcade related content. If you'd like to watch these, then please take a look on our channel. Over the years, Arcade1UP has been offering us all sorts of nostalgic arcade machines, from their 3/4 scale machines to their countercade lines. In this video I want to break down what we know and what we don't know about the new Arcade1UP Killer Instinct Pro / XL cabinets. Please do keep in mind that Arcade1UP sometimes shows renders for their cabinets, but from the initial announcement to launch there can be a few changes, so today's video is obviously based on the renders and information available at the time of making it. So let's start off with what we do know. This is Arcade1UP's new Pro / XL cabinet line, which is coming out later this year. As the name suggests, this will be a bigger and more expensive option from Arcade1UP, this being the first officially announced one. Being a Pro line arcade cabinet, it stands at 67.5 inches tall. I don't know what the width or the depth is, but we'll get to that a little bit later. The design is based on the original Killer Instinct arcade cabinet. The Killer Instinct Pro line comes with a 19-inch horizontal screen, a control deck protector, a light-up marquee, stereo sound, volume controls, a molded coin door where the buttons for player 1 and player 2 light up, faux metal T-molding, online play and Wi-Fi leaderboards, and 5 included games. The games list is as follows: Killer Instinct, Killer Instinct 2, Battletoads, all these 3 are the arcade versions, Battletoads 8-bit, and Battletoads 16-bit. The 8-bit referring to the 8-bit console version, and the 16-bit referring to the 16-bit console version. So let's move on to what we don't know. Is this pre-built or flat pack? I haven't seen any details about this yet, and I think this is a really important one. If this is pre-built, how heavy is it? Where can we get it from? Have there been any improvements to the arcade cabinet packaging? If it's flat pack, kind of the same questions, but slightly in a different way. How much does it weigh inside the package? Also, how much does it weigh outside the package? What's the size of the box going to be at retail? Dimensions other than height. Oddly enough, also not yet available is the width or the depth of the machine, hence I didn't have that in the video earlier. It's hard to say Pro / XL cabinet when we don't know the full size of the machine. The width is definitely very important, and so is the depth. People need to measure where these machines are going to go in their houses. We know they're bigger, we need to know these other dimensions. The new 5x4 screen. As this machine has a 5x4 and not a 4x3 aspect ratio screen, are we going to see scaling options included? Is it just going to be a pixel perfect image and then it will have just bezels on the side? Are there going to be any other options to stretch the screen? Horizontally, vertically, scale it all the way to full screen? If these options are not included, I think that will be a mistake by Arcade1UP. By having this Pro line of cabinets, I think you should have the most options possible. Some users won't be happy to see that their game doesn't fit the full screen. Other users will be completely the opposite. They want the game to be in pixel perfect mode. So the way, at least for me, to make this a non-issue is to put the options for scaling on the machine itself. What are the speaker upgrades? We don't know what this means. Have they installed new speakers? Have they made software improvements? We don't know. At least we now have a speaker grill, which I've spoken several times about on the channel, and I'm really happy to see that that has been included. But what are these upgrades? We don't know. A light-up deck protector. There's been no mention of this feature anywhere, so I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. Dip switch settings. Also no details on this yet, which I think is weird because I think a lot of people want to know what settings that their cabinet will have. Does this panel here move forward and backwards? Has anyone else noticed this? The panel here under the control deck, it just looks a little bit weird to me, as if it would move backwards and forwards or in and out, if you will. I could be wrong, but it does fit snugly in between the outer panels. Maybe this shape is to add stability to the control panel, but I thought it'd be interesting enough to mention anyway. If it does move in and outwards, that would kind of be interesting. Maybe that's the way they get around putting it in a box. I don't know. Is this a headphone slot? I'm assuming that this is meant to be a headphone slot, but again, there's no mention of this machine having a headphone slot, but it would be a nice feature if it did. Better build quality. A few users have mentioned that Arcade1UP's build quality is good overall, but they'd like to see some improvements. Is this machine going to have improved materials? Will it be a sturdier cabinet? Will it weigh more? We just don't know yet. Moving on to improvements, so this being the first in Arcade1UP's Pro series, they don't have any previous cabinets in this series to compare it to. So let's compare it with Arcade1UP's offerings so far. More options for the customer. Arcade1UP over the years has been criticised for sometimes not listening to its fans or not offering a hardcore fan cabinet option. I think these cabinets being considered, manufactured, and to be retailed is an improvement for the company, as I think these machines will be sold side by side with their other offerings. I am a big believer in more options, so these machines being available at all is an improvement. If we look at the evolution of the Arcade1UP Killer Instinct cabinet itself, I think we can see that Arcade1UP has been listening to customer feedback. Here is the first render of the Killer Instinct 3/4 scale cabinet. Here is the new render of the Killer Instinct 3/4 scale. And finally, here is the newly announced Pro/XL line. The first render of this machine looks very much like the Capcom and Midway Legacy editions. The second render, we can see improvements have been made, more than likely due to feedback. The marquee isn't at a 90-degree angle, the screen has been tilted, the control panel has been pushed out slightly, the visibility of the Rare logo on the riser has been improved, the game logo on the J panel also looks much better, and there have been improvements to the side art. The Pro/XL cabinet render is a collection of most of the options asked for by the community for a full-sized Arcade1UP. So again, I think that these are just more options, and the more options for me, the better. Overall, we can see, looking at these three cabinets, they've gone from one shape that the users didn't particularly like, to an improved shape here in the middle, and now to the Pro line itself. The size of the cabinet. A taller cabinet has been asked for many times, and here it is. Glad to see this option is available. A bigger screen. Another constant request for Arcade1UP machines were bigger screens. Going from the 17-inch to the 19-inch screens might not be the biggest improvement, but considering screen ratios, this might be the better option when compared to even larger screens. We don't know if this is going to have the same brand of screens as the other machines, but still an improvement in size nonetheless. New buttons and sticks. Possibly the biggest moan when it comes to Arcade1UP machines. Improved buttons and sticks have been an issue for some players since their first cabinets were launched. Many asked for Sanwa, but on this cabinet they're using Suzu-Hap joystick and buttons, which is great and a huge improvement on their previous offerings. Speaker grills. This is something I've mentioned several times before. In my view, a needed improvement for the aesthetics of their machines. I'm really happy to see these present on the Pro/XL cabinets. It looks great. So moving on to any requests that I might have, more games. Now that Arcade1UP have shown their Pro line, if users were already not happy with a small game list on a 3/4 scale cabinet, I don't think that argument's going to go away when we have a Pro line. I still don't think that any of these cabinets should have less than 10 games, and this one has 5. Now here's a small request, which might be a little bit silly. I think ball tops and bat tops should be included in this cabinet. When playing arcade games, players have different preferences, so why not eliminate a possible issue by including both options for ball tops and bat tops in this cabinet. Fighting games are usually fitted with bat tops, but for some users they prefer to use ball tops. There are side-scrolling games on this machine, which is usually fitted with a ball top, but some users wouldn't mind using a bat top. So I think the best thing to do is actually include both options, which I think would be a win-win for Arcade1UP and for the users. So are there any potential issues that I see with these cabinets? Well, why are the wings still here? I mentioned this with the Midway Legacy Mortal Kombat 30th Anniversary cabinet. I think that the control panel should sit flush on the arcade machine itself, similarly to the way that Big Blue had its control panel. I don't see why these wings are back. They weren't that well received before, and they're still making their way back on their Pro line. What users didn't like before on the 3/4 scale are that these wings would actually make it uncomfortable to play some games. The obvious difference now is that the control panel seems to be wider. Now I have to say seems because again, we don't know what the width of this machine is. Hopefully there'll be more space in between the control set itself and the edges of the control panel. But the question would still be, is this wide enough to be played comfortably by the user? I really hope so. The game list is too small. I know I mentioned this in the previous segment, but I really do think this can potentially be a big issue for a lot of users, or potentially be a reason why they won't buy this cabinet. We have a situation where users have been asking for a Pro line or a bigger version of their 3/4 scale cabinets, but having 5 games on there, I don't think helps to make these more attractive to those users. There are 5 games on the Pro line, and there are 5 games on the 3/4 scale lineup. Not only are there 5 games on each, the game lineup is exactly the same for both cabinets. Several times before I've said that I don't think these cabinets should be sold with less than 10 games on there. I know this is a big title, I know there are a lot of people that are very excited about it, but 5 games for this machine I still think is a very small number. So here's hoping that this Pro/XL cabinet line doesn't have any issues and we can all enjoy it. To finish off, I'd like to say that I think this cabinet has been made to offer another option to customers. I do think that there are consumers out there that don't want a 3/4 scale arcade cabinet, but really want a full-sized one. Will Arcade1UP stop making 3/4 scale arcade machines? I think this would be very unlikely, as this has been their business model since the beginning and the company seems to be doing very well. To me, it makes sense to offer more options, as there might be a big demand out there for a more expensive Arcade1UP, but overall a lower priced, full-sized, officially licensed arcade machine. So what do you all think of the Arcade1UP Killer Instinct Pro line or XL cabinet? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? How would you change it? Please leave your impressions down in the comment section. But that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to help the channel, please click that like, subscribe, and notification bell for more of our content in the future. And until then, thanks again.